Good morning, good afternoon. Today we're going to be looking at the benefits of the enterprise version of Creative Cloud for your organization. It's roughly a 40-minute session with some time at the end for questions. So the agenda for today. In order to give you the full picture, we've organized the session into separate topics. And with each topic, we'll explain how it works and why this step is important for you. With each topic, we've prepared a short introductory video that will clearly explain every step of the process. So the format will be, we'll have 4 videos followed by a demo, a live demo with the admin console to bring the subject to life. And afterwards, you can watch all of the videos together in one place, in a consolidated video. So as you can see, the topics we'll cover today, like user management, choosing an identity type, and how to better manage your software updates. We'll also cover how to get support if something goes wrong and purchasing additional licenses. So the business challenges. Creative Cloud for Enterprise was developed because many organizations face different challenges once their businesses grow past a certain point. So the chances are you'll recognize some of these issues. So the first one, of course, has to do with time. Some customers find that they're spending way too much time in the admin console, especially in larger organizations or multinationals. Since every change to a user account or software entitlement requires you to log into the admin console and do some work. So if you're an admin working for a large company with hundreds of staff members, you're going to be very busy every time somebody new is hired or leaves the company. For example, somebody new starts at the company, you might well have to log into the console and provision that new starter with Adobe Acrobat so they can hit the ground running. So secondly, the second challenge, wasted IT resources, is a big business challenge. So we all love Adobe solutions. I'm a little bit biased in that respect. But having said that, IT teams have more important things to do than make sure the designer is running the latest version of Photoshop. For this reason, we've made the admin console as easy as possible to use. Easy, of course, means faster and less time wasted. And because of this, we've heard from our customers that IT staff are now spending less time in the admin console. The less time, the better. So on the last point, with the Enterprise Creative Cloud offering, you can have multiple admin roles within the console and delegate those responsibilities. So more business challenges. Security is always the key issue for IT. When I speak to IT teams, it's usually the first thing that they want to talk about, and rightly so. And it's a top priority for us as well. So we understand that large organizations handle a strict cloud computing policy and want to make sure that every cloud-based solution they use meets their highest security standards. Because of this, the demand for higher levels of control and security measures is ever prominent. So our customers want to store as little personal information as possible on the cloud, or at least have better control over it. So enterprise-grade technology like federated IDs and single sign-on have become the norm in many companies, which is something you can't use if you're just using Creative Cloud for Teams, of course. So chances are large organizations will already have control over user access and services via some kind of federated login or single sign-on. So now we're going to have a look at how Creative Cloud for Enterprise can help with these challenges. So introducing the admin console. Many of the things that we're presenting today are managed within the Creative Cloud admin console. So let's start by taking a look at the admin console. And for this, I'm going to play some explainer videos rather. With each case, it will be followed by a demo in the admin console itself to bring it to life. So first of all, let's have a look at the different identity types available to you with Creative Cloud for Enterprise. First of all, let's see a video to explain the different account types, and then we'll have a look at our first demo in the admin console.
Now comes the time to make a very important decision. Your organization needs to decide a method of identification. Creative Cloud for Enterprise offers you the choice between 3 different account types: an Adobe ID, an Enterprise ID, and a Federated ID using single sign-on. An Adobe ID is an account type that can be created by anyone, but keep in mind that the account is always owned by the end user, despite that user using a corporate email address. This means that IT has no control over the user password, which is stored on Adobe servers. Plus, no one can stop the user from purchasing additional Adobe products on their dead account. An Enterprise ID is created, owned, and managed by the organization and not the user, while the password is stored on Adobe servers. To achieve this, the organization first needs to claim and verify the email domain that their user will be registered with. Once completed, the organization can set additional security settings for every user using their email domain. This also enables other advantages, like having emergency access to files and data associated with an ID, or the ability to completely block or delete a user account. The last account type is perhaps the most important one and also requires claiming a domain name. A Federated ID is created and owned by the organization and linked to the enterprise directory via federation. On top of that, the organization manages all credentials and processes uses single sign-on via a SAML2 identity provider. This offers huge advantages to the organization, including the ability to provision users based on their organization's enterprise directory, and automatically removing access to all applications and services the moment someone leaves the organization. The login procedure is also a little bit different. The moment a user enters his email address in the desktop application, Creative Cloud will automatically recognize the claimed domain name and will redirect the user to an internal login page instead, since the password is stored in your own directory. It's almost as if you're knocking on your own door. And when using Enterprise or Federated IDs, you can even set asset sharing restrictions that control how and with who Creative Cloud assets can be shared.
So let's see some of this in practice in the admin console. Now from the admin console, you have full control over your user accounts by using an Enterprise or Federated ID. You can use single sign-on via SAML2 identity providers, or you can link your organization's Active Directory via federation to the admin console, allowing you to automate user management and software entitlement. This adds extra security as accounts and passwords are managed locally. And this is a huge time saver as everything can be automated. You also have control over shared asset rights to maintain control over your company assets. So I'm not going to go through the setup process with you just now, because if you move to a Creative Cloud Enterprise agreement, your onboarding specialist will get you set up and up and running with everything you need to know. Or indeed, if you're already on an enterprise agreement, you can schedule an expert services session to cover how to set this up. But for the demo, I just wanted to show you a few things from the admin console right now. So from settings, from here, I can set up my directories for my users and my domains. The domain is generally going to be your company email address, but of course you might have multiple domains associated with your organizations. The next step would be to configure the directory to use your company single sign-on if you wish. So from the asset settings, I can also decide whether I'm going to allow my users to share assets outside of my organization. So from here, I can really maintain control over security and company assets. And I have a number of options here whereby I can, for instance, apply no restrictions at all so that anything can be shared outside of my organization. Or I can, for instance, only allow users to share content with users on the same domain, or indeed users from other trusted domains. So it might be that I'm going to trust certain other domains, certain other email addresses, for instance, to receive content. And this gives me a lot of control. So I've decided on my authentication method and my identity types. I've decided whether I'm going to allow my users to share assets outside of my organization. Now, of course, I'm going to need some users. For this part, I'm going to play the second video.
In order to grant a team member access to Adobe Creative Cloud, they first need to be added as a user in the admin console. And adding users is extremely easy. Just add users to the admin console one by one, or bulk import them using a CSV template. And if you're using federated IDs, you can have users synchronized to your admin console automatically based on your organization's enterprise directory. But remember, just adding a user doesn't mean you're giving them a Creative Cloud membership. Right now, we're merely building a pool of users to choose from once you start assigning licenses. When finished importing, group users into separate user groups to make them even easier to manage. For example, you can group users together per team, media, or maybe office location. And if you're migrating from a Creative Cloud for Teams license, it's even easier. All users will be migrated automatically the moment you start using the Creative Cloud for Enterprise admin console. To make things easier, Adobe Creative Cloud for Enterprise also allows you to hand out various responsibilities to key users. After all, why should the system admin have to do all the work? Use the User Management tab to promote specific users to various roles. Why not let a creative team leader manage his own team by promoting him to a user group admin, or have a power user promoted to a support admin to help out other users? Distributing various admin roles to key players within your organization will greatly reduce IT workload and will allow offices abroad to manage their own team locally.
So let's see this in practice in the admin console. So as I say, I decided on my authentication method and my identity types, and now I need to get some users in to grant them access to their Adobe apps. So with the admin console, you can keep track of all your users and licenses in one place. If you decide to use your own single sign-on for Adobe authentication, you might want to consider using the Adobe Sync tool to synchronize your users to the admin console. For the demo though, we're going to see just how easy it is to import users, either individually or in a batch in the admin console. So let's go to the user section. So from here, I can see everyone who's been added to my Adobe admin console and which products they have an entitlement to. So you can see over here for Achilles, for instance, I can see that Achilles has been provisioned with Creative Cloud All Apps. And indeed for Adonis Stewart here, he has been provisioned with Adobe Stock. So I can see all of this very easily. So let's see how we would add in a new user, a new starter, for instance. So I can do this in a couple of ways. First of all, I can add users directly from this screen. And for instance, I might add in myself here. And then I can optionally add in my name, my details, and then of course from here I can instantly start to provision myself or my users with their software entitlements. So for example, I could say that I wanted to give myself access to Creative Cloud All Apps, including services, and also I can assign my users to different user groups as well. So you might have a group of designers or marketers that you want to keep in separate groups, and then later on you can associate those groups with different product profiles like the All Apps plan that we see here. So secondly, if I need to, I can of course bulk add users. So if I have a bunch of new starters, then I can add those users in by CSV. So I can download a CSV template for the admin console, and then I can add in my users in bulk in one go. If I'm migrating from Teams to Enterprise, I can also bulk edit the user identity type by CSV as well. So it might be that I'm migrating from a standard Adobe ID to an Enterprise or Federated ID, and I can do that here as well via the bulk operations. Now I have some users in my console, I need to manage their access to the Creative Cloud applications. And we do this with product profiles. So here's a short video to introduce how this works, and then we'll do another demo to bring it to life.
As an IT admin, you can assign Adobe Creative Cloud licenses to your designers by simply clicking their name and choosing the appropriate license. And if you're using user groups, you can even bulk assign licenses to every designer within that group. Imagine you have 100 Creative Cloud licenses available, which need to be distributed across 4 different teams, each located in a different city. Just assigning licenses to all users within those 4 teams will be an inefficient way of handling the situation, because it can be difficult to see which user is part of which team. And what if a designer switches teams, or someone decides to leave the organization? Assigning a license to a user group instead will ensure that everyone in the team receives a Creative Cloud license. It's important to understand that assigning a license to a user is never permanent. When a user decides to leave the organization, their license can be removed from the admin console, making it available again to the IT admin. And when a new designer is hired, the license can be reassigned. This system offers your organization flexibility in managing and distributing licenses across the team. It's also possible to manage your licenses from a product approach instead of a user approach. Adobe Creative Cloud for Enterprise allows you to divide your available licenses into what we call product profiles. A product profile is a subpool of licenses to which users or user groups can be assigned and which can be managed by its own product profile admin. For example, a product profile with the name Design Team London can be created as one of our 4 teams. Set with a maximum license quota of 20, this means that the product profile admin can only hand out a maximum of 20 licenses to designers within his user group. And if he ever needs more, he'll have to talk to the system admin to get more resources. This is a great and very cost-effective way to control license distribution within the organization, especially on remote locations where the system admin is not physically present. Another great reason to use product profiles is to control which Creative Cloud service is made available to a user group. Imagine creating a profile for all the marketeers in your organization, allowing them to use Adobe Spark, Adobe Typekit, and Adobe InDesign Publish Online, but blocking them from accessing Adobe Sign as a digital signature workflow, as that is not part of their daily responsibilities.
Let's cover off the points we saw in the video. First one being, I can click on a user here in my user list. And from here I can directly assign product profiles. So from the user details and products, then I can select the edit products directly assigned option. And from here, I'm able to select which product profile I want my user to belong to, and in turn, which apps or plans they'll get access to. So from here, I can say that I want this user to have access to the All Apps plan with all services on. And I can edit that from there. So the second point in the video was around assigning licenses to a group instead. The advantage here being, if anyone is added to that group, they'll automatically be provisioned with that particular profile and in turn the access to the software, of course. So let's go back to users and then user groups. And I can see here that I have set up a number of user groups already with varying numbers of users inside those groups. Now if we quickly go back to the home screen and we'll go into our All Apps profile. From here in the user section, if I go into one of my profiles such as All Services On, from the users, I can, as we saw earlier, I can add users via the Add User option, or I can actually add a user group in here. So this group I know to have, I think, 10 users, and I can very easily assign that group to the profile. And thirdly, as an admin, I can allocate a certain number of licenses to a profile and allow somebody else to administer it. Delegation, of course, means less work for me without the need of somebody else burning through all of my licenses. So if I go to one of the profiles and settings, then from here I can set a quota of the number of licenses that are available to that profile. And indeed, I can add another administrator in here to allow them to administer this profile as well. And lastly, I have control over which services the profile has access to. So this profile has been named All Services On, so as you'd guess, that particular profile has all of the cloud services switched on. But of course, from the settings, I can also, from here, if I want to, I can decide to enable or disable certain services. So if I don't want my users in the profile to have access to digital signatures via Adobe Sign, because that's not part of their everyday work, then I can switch that off. Or if indeed I want to stop them sharing web pages and stories, then I can do that from here as well. And of course with any of the services listed. We've seen how easy it is to import users, provision them with access to Creative Cloud applications. But how are we going to allow our users to install this software and stay up to date with the latest versions? In this chapter, we'll take a look at your available options for keeping your software up to date. And luckily for us, we can choose between a few different methods for updating. So let's have a look at the introduction video first, and then we'll discuss these topics in further detail with a demo.
One of the beautiful things about Adobe Creative Cloud is that technology and innovation is made available to all users the moment it's released by Adobe. Because of this, frequent updates to Adobe Creative Cloud applications will occur, and it's important to keep your software up to date in order to take advantage of the latest and greatest. There are several ways to manage your software updates, and your chosen method will greatly depend on your IT strategy. The first one's extremely basic. Just instruct your designers to update your software directly from the Adobe Creative Cloud desktop application. This method uses an individual approach and is perfect for organizations where users are free to use whichever version they prefer. If you're worried about bandwidth, you might want to consider setting up your own internal update server. making it possible for designers to self-serve themselves via your local LAN network. This is a very efficient way of updating software, as designers know best which updates are important without putting too much stress on the organization's bandwidth. If you want to enforce certain updates, it's possible to build a completely new package from the admin console. But this time, the package can include one or more new Adobe Creative Cloud applications that will overwrite the ones on the user's computer. Once built and downloaded, the package can be installed onto every computer without needing user interaction. You can even deploy your new software across the entire network using solutions like Microsoft SCCM. Alternatively, you can also choose to use Adobe's Remote Update Manager that allows for an IT specialist to invoke the updating process on the designer's computer via a simple network command line. As you can see, Adobe Creative Cloud for Enterprise offers various ways to keep your organization's IT overhead as low as possible while enabling designers to take full advantage of Adobe's latest innovation.
Now let's take a look at how this works in the admin console. So for the demo, we'll be focusing on managing software updates for my users. As an administrator, I have a choice on how I want to manage updates. So firstly, I can allow my users to be self-serve, especially since admin rights aren't necessary. The designer herself knows which applications and tools they need which are relevant for their job. And secondly, I can choose to have control over software deployment by building custom packages that can be deployed using deployment tools like SCCM. So going back to the admin console, and from here I can access the Packages tab. So in the Packages section, I can see the packages that I've already created that have possibly already been deployed or available to download. But let's have a look at creating a new package. So from here, as I was saying, I can create one of two package types. So the first one being the self-serve package, and the obvious benefits here being that of course my users are more self-sufficient. I'm going to receive fewer requests for new versions of software because they can serve themselves and always stay up to date with the latest applications. And the result of creating and installing a self-serve package is the user has access to this Creative Cloud desktop application that I can see here that I'm already running. And from here, I have the ability to update any of my existing applications or install any apps that I haven't already installed. So if you go for this option, then as an IT admin, your work here is done. You don't need to spend any time on requests from users to get the latest versions and that kind of thing, as I was saying. But secondly, you might want to choose a managed package if you need to have more control over which versions of the software your users have access to and are using, and when they can update. So as I say, you have more options here. So now I can choose to prevent non-admin users from installing updates to their applications, as opposed to the self-service package, whereby of course a non-admin can update their apps. And I can also choose, in terms of management options, I can choose to use a remote update manager. So if I want to, I can redirect to I can invoke a remote update on the client machine to install updates when I deem necessary. And also I have some other options in here, such as redirecting to an internal update server if I want to save on bandwidth and internet traffic. Then I can use an internal update server to be able to control that. So next, from here, I can choose which individual applications that I want my users to be able to install within the package. And I can add in the various apps very easily. So for instance, now I'm adding in Photoshop and Illustrator for my designers. And in addition to that, if I need to control which specific versions the users have access to, then I can do that from here as well. So I can, if I need to, I can limit my users to only being able to install the older version of Photoshop here, for instance. And a use case for that might be that I have workflows that are reliant on plugins that are dependent on certain versions of the applications, and I can hold back the users from updating until I've made sure that my newer applications are compatible and working with those workflows and those plugins. So when I'm ready, I can choose to enter a package name and create that package to deploy to my users. So where can I go for help and support to fix any issues without wasting a lot of time looking online on forums and waiting for responses? I want to be able to action things very quickly and get support and advice. So thankfully, I can do that with the Enterprise Admin Console. So for the last of our demos, let's have another look at the Admin Console. So from a support point of view, you won't lose any more time looking online for help. Help is available anytime, anywhere. So again, from our console, if I go to the support tab, then from here, I can see how I can, for instance, create a support ticket and get a response urgently from one of our expert support agents. I can also chat directly with a support agent from here, or I can request an expert service session. Now, expert service sessions are part of your enterprise agreement and are unlimited per user. So an expert services session might be that you have a user or users that require training on a particular product, such as Photoshop or any of the creative apps. You can request an expert services session at a date and time of your choice to give that user some product training. Or it might be, as an IT administrator, you'd like to know more on the admin console and how to deploy software to your users. So in that case, you can request an expert services session for that use case here as well. So of course, from the admin console, you can also order licenses directly as well if you need to increase your number of licenses. So from my All Apps plan here, very easily I can choose to add in additional licenses and authorize the purchase when I'm ready. Now this is handy because all new purchases are going to be linked to the same anniversary date. So all billing is done directly to your company instead of individual users. And when confirmed, all licenses will appear automatically in your admin console. So now we're going to begin to wrap up. So let's compare what you get with the enterprise offering compared to Creative Cloud for Teams. You can see for the enterprise solution, there are enterprise grade alternatives for every part of your workflow. Things like control, automation, and security. As we saw, you have control over company assets, sharing restrictions, things that you don't have with Teams, and you can easily remove access to stored company assets. These are the topics whereby Creative Cloud Enterprise gives you a huge advantage. So what does all of this mean for your business? So let's cover a few of today's key takeaways. So first of all, you'll be able to better manage your IT resources. When using Creative Cloud for Teams, you only have one admin role, and that person is responsible for everything. Whereas Creative Cloud for Enterprise allows you to assign up to 6 different admin roles that can control a specific aspect of the admin console, be it a deployment admin, a support admin, for instance, to manage and update support tickets. You'll also save a lot of time since our user sync tool and API allow you to automate every aspect of the admin console's user management. Plus various techniques like the remote update manager or having your own internal updating server allow you to choose the software updating policy that best matches your IT strategy. And to finish off, using federated IDs and single sign-on allows you to add an extra layer of security when using the Adobe software. Plus, you can set asset sharing restrictions and password requirements, and even automatically assign or remove Adobe software entitlements when folk join or leave your organization. So thanks for joining me for the session today. You can, of course, reach out to your local Adobe content, partner or reseller if you want to know more about anything you've seen today. Thanks very much.